Ladies and gentlemen, introducing from Damansar Uptown, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, weighing in at one interview. He is your fellow Uptown lowlife, Cornelius LOW.
Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. They might seem like two different worlds, but professional wrestling and VTubing have a lot in common. The showbiz nature gives stars a chance to flex their creative muscle with overarching storylines and intertwined lore. But combine the two, and you get someone like Cornelius LOW. A professional wrestler based out of Malaysia and a VTuber, he knows the ins and outs of kayfabe and how these two seemingly distant mediums are more alike than you think. Cornelius, welcome to Behind the Model. Most people see professional wrestling as just being the WWE. What does the scene actually look like?
Well, like the WWE. There's actually no denying that. There is no denying. In some ways, it's still the end all be all. It's still the biggest promotion in the world, the one with the most impact and all that jazz. However, I would say there's a bit of a renaissance these days in this current era, where at least where we are now in Southeast Asia, and I will even argue Australasia as well, people are becoming more and more aware that there's local or regional wrestling. There's been a very much a grassroots movement in Southeast Asia the past, 7 to 5 years to build up something of a pro wrestling scene here, and we've got some varying degrees of success, being able to get on the national news, getting on the paper, some videos going viral. So it's very heartening that even a large company like the WWE or AEW and NJPW, these big companies, they're aware of these smaller smaller grassroots movements. Yes.
How did you get into professional wrestling?
Ooh, good question. Essentially, I've always been a fan of the wrestling. I mean, when you look at me, I look like a proper done-up lad. But I've always enjoyed a bit of a scrap here and there. And wrestling scratched that itch that actually surprisingly more complex than it seems, because as you know, wrestling combines a bit of performance and a good bit of roughhousing at the same time. So I think it all stemmed when I was a younger lad. I knew what WWE was, but I think a through line with me in my wrestling journey is that even though I knew about the big E, the big W, I'm not sure if you know what TNA is. Do you know what TNA is?
No, please.
Basically, it was a smaller wrestling promotion that was also shown in Malaysian and I believe Southeast Asian television as well, back in back in the 90s or something of the sort. I'm showing my age. Apologies. But basically, that's when I realized, oh, it's not just WWE. There are other wrestling promotions out there as well, and some that might arguably suit my taste a little more. So ever since then, I've always considered other avenues of wrestling besides WWE. And this is okay. This sounds ridiculous. This sounds like utter poppycock. But quite a few years ago, I was reading in the papers as we still do at that time. I noticed this thing, SPW, Singapore Pro Wrestling. I'm like, wait, what? There is Singaporean Pro Wrestling? What? And so I thought, wait, if the Singaporeans could have local pro wrestling, what about Malaysia? And then I looked around a little more. No joke. At that time, there was literally a pro wrestling center. Barely even a 5 minutes drive from my household. Shocking. So I at least I owed it to myself to at least check it out and stuff, and so I did. Yeah, and that's how it all began.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, with a lot of gravel, with a lot of hard bumps, with a lot of driving into ditches along the way. It wasn't an easy journey, especially for a lad like me. Let me be very, very honest with you.
You mentioned that wrestling is not just a performance; it's a sport. It's many things. It's a multitude of industries.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The way I like to, my favorite analogy for this, just because it throws people off so hard, is that it is basically the more meat-headed version of musical theater. Yes. What's musical theater, lad? What's musical theater comprised of?
I mean, it's, you've got the performance on stage, you've got the sequences, and there's this physicality of having to
Singing, acting, dancing. Singing, acting, dancing. That's why they call musical theater performers triple threats, because you are combining three fairly different skill sets into one. Pro wrestling is sort of like that. It is theatrics, athletics, and combat combined into one, and therefore that makes pro wrestling, in some ways a multidisciplinary art. There is so much that goes into putting on a match. You have no idea. Like you study for this. You actually need to like study and train for this, and wrap your head around these things and mill things together. And it's like a big jambalaya, beef stew, curry. It's just delicious. Go for curry right now.
Oh, yum. Do you come in from more of the creative aspect or more of like the physical aspect? Like, what do you eye yourself to when you started out in wrestling?
I mean, without a doubt, I definitely come from a more creative background, essentially, because I did come from a bit of a theater background before I entered wrestling, so that really helped actually. When it comes to my character work, when it comes to getting noticed in the ring and all that jazz, and so the physical side, very frankly, came in a little bit difficult for me, especially because, and you're aware of this, lad. Physically, it seems like I'm all right, but I'm a little banged up. I'm a little banged up, more so than arguably most wrestlers, actually. Yeah.
How does that mental and physical strain affect you as you progress in your career in pro wrestling?
Well, I mean, it's gotten to a point where I've made a virtual version of myself to compensate, right? Apologies, I self-deprecate myself to fight off the depression. But it's something that every wrestler has to deal with. Every wrestler needs to grapple with the fact that this is dangerous what we do. Like, I wouldn't like dangerous is putting it lightly. It's deadly. The worst case scenario is death. Unaliving, as they do say in the TikToks, and therefore, safety is always a concern. But sometimes things go wrong, and unfortunately, things actually have went wrong for me pretty badly, very early on in my training. In fact, I was hospitalized twice. I'm still dealing with chronic injuries that it still affects me negatively to this day. So. Mentally, there was a time when like I thought of calling it quits. I thought of that maybe I should just do something else in a way, and well, that's sort of half a truth, isn't it? Now here I am, a virtual version of myself. I'm never gonna deny my pro wrestling past, but I'm not slowing down. I'm not. So to speak, I'm not really slowing down my pro wrestling. I'm still going to wrestle at least in this period of time. I mean, I wrestled as recently as barely a month ago, at least at the time of this recording. But I realized, how to explain this? It was during the pandemic era. I have to admit, it was during the pandemic era. We were all stuck at home. Pro wrestling got screeched to a halt. We can't do what we love. I was in a rut, and that's when I found VTubing, and that's how this all started. Yeah.
We spoke about it a bit at the top, that there is actually more that combine the two than what lays beneath the surface. Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Oh, you mean mean like
between VTubing and pro wrestling?
Oh, yes. I can say a little bit about this. Well, how do I put it? in some ways, VTubing is all about characters. Wrestling is also all about the characters. Some of your favorite wrestlers that you can think of off the top of your head, you know, they are absolute characters. They are absolute people that you will notice walking across the street and being larger than life, doing these crazy feats, getting themselves involved in crazy antics. I just described VTubing as well in a way. So that sense of being able to improvise, being able to go off the cuff, and knowing what your character is, how you want to present yourself. Oh man, there's so many parallels there between live performance and digital live performance. You know, one thing that I'm very glad to say that when I entered the world of VTubing is that I was always comfortable just yapping my mouth off, because I literally do that in the ring. Except, you know, when I'm in the ring, I'm trying to insult people and be an absolute CAD. Whereas in streaming, I'm usually a bit nicer. Am I nicer? Let me know.
Usually,
Let me know.
You don't sound too confident with that one.
You know, bad habits do linger. Bad habits do linger. The nonsense I've said in the ring to my opponents and to our audience members. I love it. And yeah, so a little piece, like I said, you'll never get rid of the wrestling side of me whenever I'm streaming.
Is that because it taps into a similar creative mindset that you had when you started out in pro wrestling? It's the same kind of, I guess, background or setting that you have for VTubing?
Sort of. I think what made that transition really easy for me, going from wrestling to VTubing, was because, again, I really must emphasize this. This is Cornelius LOW, the wrestler, becoming Cornelius LOW, the VTuber. I'm still myself. I'm still Cornelius. It's just that, how to say, I'm just adapting myself more to a VTuber context. So it's not like I've become a different person. Wink, wink. So I think that really helped. With me still being me in a way. Yeah.
How similar is the Cornelius LOW in the ring versus the Cornelius LOW that pops up on stream?
Interesting. So the thing is that how to say, on one hand, there is a reason why Cornelius LOW behaves the way he is in the ring. He's known as the uptown lowlife. He is the stuck-up guy from uptown who feels he's a little bit lowly, so he wants everyone else to feel the way he does, and as a result, he's very much a bit of a rascal. He's very much a bit of an arrogant, pompous fool. You can argue that he is rather foolish, but that is by design. That is very deliberate. Cornelius LOW, the VTuber, I suppose it's me in a more relaxed sense, in more playful sense. So in some ways, it actually, believe it or not, it actually gives me an opportunity to show off the more positive side of Cornelius. Actually, it allows me to talk about things that doesn't make sense for me to talk about when I'm being the baddie, because I am a career baddie. Just for context, in wrestling, you always need a good lad and a baddie, and I mean, look at me. Do I look like the superhero in the story? Do I look like Superman? No. I'm Lex Luthor. Okay, I'm the Lex Luthor in the Superman story. Someone argued I'm the henchman, but that's besides the point. So VTubing's really allowed me to just show off more sides of it. Still me.
Is that like it comes from the fact that you're engaging with like a different audience?
Yes. That is true, because and I'm very aware of the fact that some folks they're not into wrestling. Most of the people that like VTubing also like things like anime, gaming, not necessarily wrestling at all. I'm very very aware of the fact that wrestling is very much still a niche product. It's still very much something that not necessarily a lot of folks are into. In fact, some folks will outright avoid it. I am so aware of that. So I'll end up doing. So I will be a lot more. A lot more jovial, be a lot more playful.
I want to talk a little bit about the Malaysian space, because you obviously are from Malaysia. You've wrestled in the Malaysian pro wrestling scene, and then you moved into the VTubing space, where it's also niche and a bit indie and underground in Malaysian VTubing. What are the kind of parallels between the two, and how people approach growing the fandom and the audience for the region?
I mean, yeah, you are correct to say that there are indeed parallels as well, because both are very new hobbies slash industries. They're both very new in the Malaysian context. And I think it kind of goes back to a big through line when it comes to the Malaysian entertainment scene, that unless if something is explicitly mainstream, or like it got on the news, or like international news, recognition and growth in the Malaysian scene is difficult. I wouldn't say impossible, but most certainly difficult. Unfortunately, when you think of, put it this way, when you think of Malaysian actors and performers and artists, they are folks like I don't know, like Michelle Yeoh, or the guy that directed Saw, right. So these are Malaysians that went overseas and plied their trade there, and only once they got international recognition, that's when people noticed them. I can even say for the same thing with wrestling as well. The founder of pro wrestling in Malaysia, like the guy who brought it here and taught it here, Shaukat. It was only when he freaking flew himself to USA to wrestle a couple of matches there. That's when he really got noticed by the big news outlets here. And only when Eman Azman, a Malaysian wrestler based in Australia, when he won the MCW Inter-Commonwealth Championship, and he came down to Malaysia, that's when the Malaysian media took notice, and people took notice. So yeah, I really hate to say it. We have a lot of talented people here. We have so many skilled and wonderful people with so much potential and so much creativity in both wrestling and VTubing. But we unfortunately, the Malaysian public does have this like the grass is greener on the other side sort of mentality. And obviously there are a lot of locals here that do support us, but you can tell there is a bit of discrepancy actually. Maybe things can change a little more, and I think they are. I do think they are, as wrestling and Malaysian VTubing are slowly but surely building itself up. But as of right now, bit of an uphill battle, frankly speaking. But thank you so much for everybody for the support.
Does VTubing being a bit more of a global medium through the kind of channels that it can be accessed through advantage you in that way a little bit, and advantage the VTuber space compared to what you could achieve in pro wrestling?
You know what? In some ways, I could have said yes if it wasn't for the fact that I mentioned whenever I mention Malaysian wrestling, I've also in some ways also mentioned regional wrestling, right? The Southeast Asian side. So I'm one of those lads in the Malaysian wrestling scene that has always kept a fairly close tab on at least the Southeast Asian scene, like Singapore, Thailand, Philippines. Oh, I love wrestling in the Philippines. My goodness, lovely crowd. Because look, the wrestling scene here in Malaysia is so small. So it almost makes sense to and if you want to gain experience and do more matches, it almost makes sense to look outwards a little bit to see where else I could find an opportunity. Like I've wrestled in the Philippines, Singapore, Australia even. Well, as in Perth, I guess that counts as Australia. So So yes, so even so, I wouldn't say so that there was no international opportunities, or I couldn't expand myself internationally, because I did, I did somewhat, and that's one way to build up your wrestling portfolio. Obviously, with VTubing, that I can feel that effect a little more, just because internet, hello, yeah. So yeah, so there's definitely an opportunity there, and it helps that wrestling is very much I suppose, an international thing. So I've gotten noticed here and there, by folks from the other side of the pond. Most certainly, most certainly.
Mm. What does VTubing afford you creatively that you can't really get out of wrestling?
All right, right, right. So essentially, well, for one, I get to do stuff like this. No hands cartwheel. I'm not a high flying sort of a wrestler. Though. I'm a grappler. I tie you down, put you in the knots, and then crank. So I get to do fun stuff like that with my V2 model. No hands, cartwheel, and all that. But besides it allows me also to do other creative things, like streaming, making videos. Um, you know, uh, I can't freaking play Overwatch whilst I'm wrestling, can't I? Or can I?
I mean, you could give it a try.
Huh. I mean, oh gosh, that's getting into a complicated topic of melding video games and pro wrestling together, because it's been done before. Actually, it has been done before. Just look up Kenny Omega, Xavier Woods, Street Fighter. It's a mad affair right there. But yes, it allows me a chance to just do try out different things that's not wrestling, gaming, and then what else? I've even tried to once I've actually tried to play a Flappy Bird style game made by a friend of mine, and narrate a horror story at the same time. So I was creating a horror story on the fly. So I love to do stuff like that. I would love to showcase more of my voice acting stuff during streams as well. I don't know how obvious this is, but I have a bit of a passion for voice acting. But again, I would like to combine VTubing and wrestling together, right? So I was very recently, I actually made a pro wrestling quiz show for VTubers. I was really proud. I was so chuffed at how well that did. So that's the stuff that I'm really into, combining my what I call IRL stuff and virtual content together.
And there's actually a few more collaborations like that than people would think, like between pro wrestling and VTubing, and the crossovers between the two, not just in the nature of the activity, but also in the people that partake in it. Would you be able to talk to that a little bit?
Oh yes. Am I a bit of the subject expert on this? I wouldn't know. So no one quoted me. No one quoted me on this. All right. But I'll try my best. So possibly one of the most well-known ones that I can at least publicly say publicly. Like there's some stuff that best if I keep that on the down low. That's all I'm going to say. So there is a Japanese pro wrestler. He goes by the name of Grado Khan from New Japan Pro Wrestling. So he's good. He's a very good pro wrestler, fairly high profile. And he's a huge Hololive fan. You guys know Hololive fan, right? Ducky, you know Hololive, right?
Of course.
Of course. And his Oshi. Do you know who his Oshi?
Who?
Oh, you don't know. Oh, okay.
I don't.
I'll tell you. Oh, goodness, Ducky. I have to do everything for you. It is Uzura Subaru. Yes, the Shuba staff. Shuba! This is... So he's expressed this in videos and on social media before. It came to a head actually in the recent Hololive Super Expo. So the big Hololive thing that they do. There was basically, I can't even explain this. Is mad. A bunch of like baddie minions from an anime. They came out to bother. No, not Subaru, but her duck mascot that's in the big foam costume thing. You know, they were bullying the poor duck and causing a big ruckus. And mind you, this was quite a live stream too. Who came to save the duck? But Okan himself in a suit. He had a bag of merch with him, so he put that away and he fought the three baddies off, and even did Subaru's signature wrestling move. So Subaru has a signature wrestling move, believe it or not, and he fought them off. This was a very well-known Japanese pro wrestler doing wrestling in a HoloLive venue. I cannot wait to see how far this goes. And there are other more minor ones like as well. Like Sakura Miko got recently interacted with freaking Asuka from WWE, one of the best pro wrestlers. Well, never mind female, Japanese or male, just freaking like Asuka, like oh my god, yes. Yes. So, and obviously, Nishi Sanji has also done stuff as well with Wrestle Sanji. They used WWE. They've made like a wrestling tournament with their game before, so that was pretty neat.
Yeah. You've been doing wrestling and VTubing now for a number of years and quite some time. Do you see yourself as more of a wrestler or a VTuber nowadays?
Ooh. This is a question I tackle on an almost daily basis. So, as I mentioned, I've had some injuries on me that's really kind of debilitating. It's forced me to wrestle in a particular way, and it actually limits me a little bit physically as well. There's some stuff that I wish I could do, but I can't physically. Every pro wrestler has a shelf life. Mine's a little shorter than most, sad to say. So I'm really trying to watch out for that. So, but the silver lining is that this has allowed me to try out VTubing and try it out hard. As I mentioned, this allows Cornelius LOW to still be Cornelius LOW, and the fact of the matter is, at least here in Malaysia, I don't get much opportunities to wrestle. I mean, I can train on an almost weekly basis, don't get me wrong, but as for actually getting into events itself, because holding these events and making it look nice and snappy, it costs money, it's expensive, it's complicated, and so I can only wrestle so many times per year. Even if I were to travel all around Southeast Asia, it'll still cost me a good bit, So, yeah. So in that sense, I can be Cornelius LOW more often as a VTuber, as a VTuber. It sounds like a little bit of a sob story here, but it's not really. I'm still getting to be. I can still get to be me and really mess around being me, but not as a wrestler. But I still carry that badge of a wrestler with me still. So yeah, you can make the argument right now. I consider myself a bit more of a VTuber just because my level of activity in VTubing right now is a little bit higher than wrestling, but only slightly more. So as you can tell, I grapple with this constantly. Yep.
So with all that being considered, where does the future lay for Cornelius LOW?
Good question indeed. I mean, I do intend to, the way I see it, even if it's not wrestling, even if it's not VTubing, heaven forbid, I still get to do these two things that I love. Cornelius LOW is very much a part of my identity now. This mark you see this mark on my face here?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this mark is what I call I don't think I've ever revealed this before in an interview. So yeah, here's an exclusive scoop. I think This is kintsugi. Basically, the idea of kintsugi is that it is a vase that has been shattered, broken, right? But the thing is, the people who do kintsugi, they fix the vase, they glue it back up, and then on the cracks, where it's ugly and you can tell it's broken, they use like gold or silver lacquer to paint over it, and therefore beautifying it, making it even more outstanding than ever. That's how I sort of see myself, and that's been a huge driving force for me. So Cornelius LOW is a part of me, and I intend to use this this branding to go forward with whatever creative endeavor I intend to do, not just in wrestling, not just in VTubing, but in other things that I could be that I want to pursue as well. So but as opposed to when it comes to specifically for VTubing, this is a VTuber centric interview after all. I don't know. It would be kind of neat. It would be kind of neat if I can take this further, make more opportunities for myself, make content with like-minded folks, and to just further grow and grow and grow. And fame is different from growth. That's something that I think a lot of folks they will confuse between the two. I've no real interest in fame, but growth. Putting myself out there, making things that more and more people can enjoy, make more enjoyable things for more people to enjoy. That's the good life. That's the good life indeed.
Well, Cornelius, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to have a chat on this episode Behind the Model. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Ducky. Thank you so much.
Cornelius LOW is the first guest on my new series, Behind the Model, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you are interested in more of Cornelius' story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of Cornelius' social media channels below. Until next time, thank you.